Patrick Ojil, who's the Executive Director of the SME Link International, is here with us in the studio and will shortly be joined on video call by Vusi Thembekwayo, Managing Partner, Waterpark Capital Partners, and Chairman of My Growth Fund. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to have you in the Situation Room, in the room this time.
In the room this time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And occupying the actual hot seats.
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
It's a hot one, eh?
It is a hot one. But because you're our friend, we'll make it, easy for you. Please. And Vusi, when Vusi joins us now, he'll be the one on the hot seat. Okay?
All right.
So tell us about the SME Link and the conference itself.
So let me give you a bit of context, the genesis of the conference. Everything is started with the app, SMELink.app, right? What we've built is a global digital marketplace for SMEs, where they connect so that they can trade with each other. But beyond that, the big picture is for them to be linked to opportunities. When you talk about opportunities, these are learnings and linkages to money, markets, and mentors, but we plan to do this on a global scale. This is inspired by the fact that every time when SMEs wake up, there are key three pain points that I have to deal with: access to money, access to markets, and access to mentors. So we've built this amazing platform where we're giving SMEs an opportunity to come and build their profiles online. So you get into SMELink.app, the registration is free, you build a profile, and our argument is with an awesome profile, someone looking for a product or service in that space would want to check you out, right? Now, should a transaction happen, then on the dashboard, should a transaction happen and you do a fantastic job, your credibility score on the dashboard will keep going up in percentage terms. Another thing is the more information that you disclose about your business when you're building the profile, the higher your credibility score goes up. You see how that works? So two things. One, we're encouraging you to disclose as much information as possible about your business. Build a reputation so that you become attractive to others to want to do business with you. And then should a transaction happen and you do a fantastic job, what we're encouraging people to do is go back onto the platform and give you some sort of props. That elevates your
So you get
profile.
some positive reviews, like a 5-star rating and all.
100%. What that does for you is that it opens doors for repetitive business to other people because you are now the go-to person for that product or service.
So what is this? Is it an e-commerce platform?
Not really. Our job is to connect. We are basically connecting SMEs on a platform.
So there's no actual trading that's going to take place on this platform?
We do not have control of that.
Okay.
All we're doing is connecting you. So it's up to you to check out people who look credible and connect with them and try doing business with them. But
It's like an SME address book.
there you go.
Actually, Eric, it sounds more like a chamber of commerce, an online chamber of commerce, where there are all these details, there are all these people who want to be involved and they can connect with each other. And then thereafter, they can continue to do whatever business that they want.
Let's just say this has been modeled like LinkedIn, but this is the LinkedIn for SMEs. Because normally when you go to LinkedIn, what do you see? It's people's CVs,
Profiles
isn't
and-
it?
yes.
Profile. But now when you come to SMELink.app, what you see is the profile of the business. That's the first thing that you see. So that it's businesses connecting to trade with each other. Yeah. But the long-term picture here is we're building a global platform where SMEs connect, trade with each other, but we are signing strategic partnerships where they'll be able to access resources in terms of people who can talk to them about how they can access financing for their businesses, people who can talk to them about linkages to markets, local, regional, continental, and even global. Partners that can talk to them about mentorships, because the biggest thing for SMEs is they really need mentorship. If you're not mentored as an SME, you might not be able to manage your resources properly. Right? Now, straight into the conference. The SME Link conference that is slated for next week, 20th, 22nd of April, is basically an opportunity for SMEs to come and have an experience of the brand promise. It's it's going to be the biggest thought leadership conference in this part of the world. It's not an expo. What we've done is we are cognizant of the fact that SMEs want certain things, but they don't know how. So we've invited prolific subject matter experts to come and address the how. And we've curated our conversations around the how. Money, markets, and mentors. And the gentleman that you're about to talk to in the next couple of minutes, Vusi Thembekwayo, the renowned global business speaker, venture capitalist, accomplished author of the Magna Carta of Exponentiality and the Lessons from a Black Dragon, is basically coming to inspire SMEs so that they can connect to resources and opportunities to scale their business.
Is Vusi going to be in Kenya?
He's going to be here.
For the conference?
Yes.
From the 20th to the 22nd?
He's our keynote speaker. He's coming to do a keynote.
Okay.
And the keynote will be around painting the picture on how the world will look like when SMEs connect on a digital platform and are able to trade with each other and access a myriad of opportunities all over the world. That is what he's coming to articulate. Then, obviously, he's going to sit on a high-level panel where we're going to have an ACFTA conversation, where now we'll be talking about linkages to opportunities within the Africa Continental Free Trade Area for SMEs to tap into. Then the next big thing that he's going to talk about is, big thing that he's going to do is run a masterclass on how SMEs can package themselves to attract growth funding. Remember, he runs My Growth Fund, which is one of the biggest VC funds on the continent. And normally his conversations start with people who have a going concern of a turnover of about 1 million rand, which is about 10 million Kenya shillings.
A year?
That's where the conversation starts. He does growth funding.
Okay.
And we've lined up other amazing people. There's a gentleman called Eric Osiokwan, who's the co-founder of Chanzo Capital, domiciled in Ghana. The guy has already funded 32 startups on the African continent. He's funded 6 in Kenya. He's coming to do a masterclass on how SMEs can package themselves to attract seed funding, right? Now, on day 2 of the conference, we'll be having what we call Connect conversations. And there's a gentleman called Akindele Akinyemi, who's the co-founder and president of the Global Africa Business Association based out of Detroit, Michigan, and the Great Lakes region, who's coming to articulate the trade and investment opportunities that are bound in Detroit, Michigan, for SMEs, for Kenyan SMEs and African SMEs to tap into. You see where we're going with this?
Yeah.
Then on day 3 of the conference, we'll be talking about all things funding, where we've lined up now the VCs, the PEs, the angels, the social impact investors will be talking to SMEs about access to funding. Now, all these conversations are going to culminate into what we call a Rhino's Den. A Rhino's Den will comprise of a panel of eminent rhinos. These are people who are renowned authorities in their space in terms of their investments that they've made in different businesses. So they have the reputation. They're going to sit on that panel and listen to about 20 pre-qualified SMEs who will be pitching their ideas to them. So much so that what is important in that conversation is what sort of feedback are you getting from these people? Yeah, Eric is sitting on that panel and he's already funded 32 startups on the continent, and you're pitching this idea to him. The feedback that he gives you is of a lot of value, because then now you go back and start refining your value.
Is the idea to pitch to the rhino so that you can get investment from the rhino? Or is it just to get feedback from the rhino?
What happens is the conversation puts you on the funding track if your idea is solid enough. But what we're saying is this. The Rhino's Den is an opportunity for you to pitch the idea. And if it is solid enough, we put you on the funding track. But the Rhino's Den will be a continuous process on the app. It's not a one-off. Remember, after the conference, everything else defaults to
back to the app. Okay.
So it will be a series of conversations that will be ongoing until such a time that we'll start announcing people who've actually now raised funding. We'll be more than happy to announce that on the app. Yeah.
So let's bring in the guest joining us from South Africa, who's Vusi Thembekwayo, Managing Partner, Waterpark Capital Partners, Chairman, My Growth Fund. He joins us now via video link. Good morning, Vusi.
Hey guys, how are we doing?
Very well, thank you. Good to have you on the show. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, and I hope you don't mind. I'm having my morning grapes.
No, we do mind.
I'll send you a batch.
So, Vusi, you were some sort of a superstar in Africa when it comes to issues, matters of SME, of growing, of understanding business. You've talked to very many platforms. When you're coming to Kenya to speak to Kenyan SMEs, what do you hope to be your key message?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I've been coming to Kenya for a long time, and I think one of the things I've seen over the years has been how the ecosystem for supporting SMEs has grown and developed. But one of the things that I think is an opportunity for us in Africa to deal with, or Kenya specifically to deal with, is as that ecosystem has developed, has it taken people with them? My sense and my experience has been that generally what happens is that the top 5% get to grow with the rest of the ecosystem and everybody else falls behind. And so I'm excited at working with the family at SME Link, because I think we're going to be creating a platform and an opportunity where everybody else can participate and become a part of the new economy, the digital economy, and accessing those opportunities.
Mm. So you'll be coming and talking about that, and there's the launching of the digital marketplace for SMEs, and Patrick has just been taking us through it. The importance of having this one place, central place where SMEs come, they see one another, they interact. The SMEs that I'm hoping the platform will allow people to post content and share what they're doing, their experiences in growth. What's the importance of that, of people just having these kind of conversations on an app and getting to interact?
It's fundamental. A lot of people don't know that even in the industry I play in, and the game that I'm in, you can only raise a fund to invest in other businesses if you are well networked with people that place money with funds to invest in other businesses. So it's very, very important. I always say to people, the value of your network is the value you bring to the network. And what I'm looking for, hoping for, and thinking would be an opportunity for us is to take the market access opportunity that the internet presents and bring it to a group of SME owners who don't necessarily understand what that opportunity means, and who might not necessarily have had the means in the past to build those relationships themselves.
Vusi, it doesn't matter.
Understand, building a relationship online takes a lot of work.
Sure. Even as you say this, Vusi, it doesn't matter what sector we speak with. And when people are talking about starting their businesses, one of the things, rather, I think, the most common challenge then is raising capital to be able to start their business, right? And I can see this as a similar thread that spreads, doesn't matter really where you are. Is there focus then that is now translated beyond this need for capital, this need for funding, towards how businesses will be managed when they have received the funding that they need? Because then we would have many companies who receive money, small businesses who receive money and then maybe don't know what to do with it and then turn belly up. So what happens in terms of the management of this, even after they may have received whatever funding they require?
You're absolutely on the money, and let me use myself as an example on this. So if I think about our business, I'm in Dubai right now as we speak. I live here. But we've got offices here. We've got offices in South Africa, in both Joburg and Cape Town. In both of those, we've got teams. We've just opened an office in Zambia now. We've got a partner office in Nigeria. And we've got an office in New York. So when I really ask myself the question, as we grow and build our businesses, where do we draw that talent base from which we use their skills to grow their businesses? The answer to that question is the world. My own personal assistant is in the Philippines. Just my assistant. If you book a meeting with me, the person who's handling my stuff is my assistant. The head of our financing, capital raising, and structuring, in particular for our debt capital markets business, that person is sitting in Connecticut in the US. The point I'm making here is the following, that for a services business, we're already doing this. So what more if you're a manufacturing business? Perhaps the best downstream producer of the plastic that you need for the product you want to sell in your market. perhaps that person is in a different part of the world, but you're not going to reach them unless you are online talking to that person and finding them. Or what happens if you're at that growth stage of your business and you're looking for somebody that's willing to come in with technical expertise, but you can't afford them, you're willing to give them equity? Perhaps that person is sitting, I don't know, in Pakistan or India or Singapore or Malaysia. So I think the world, if there's one thing COVID has done, COVID has globalized the world. It's really and truly globalized the world. The internet has collapsed borders. It's made the world literally flat. Today, there is a young person on the easternmost part of the world and a young person on the westernmost part of the world watching the same content online. So the internet has completely collapsed borders. The question for African entrepreneurs to ask themselves is always the following. If the world is globalized, have we globalized our businesses? If the world is globalized, have we accessed global opportunities? Because I think one of the traps we have is that we continue to chase narrow geography-focused opportunities when we live in a world that has massive global opportunity and potential for us to solve problems. What we call the global south generally tends to face the same issues. So whether you're in Africa, you're in APAC, you're in Latin America or LATAM, you'll generally find that the issues are the same. Issues around access to finance. This is why fintech is a massive growing field. It's issues around access to agricultural products. This is why agri-tech is a massive growing field. It's issues around how do you deregulate industries to allow for participation of new players. This is why RegTech is a massive growing field. So it almost doesn't matter where you look. It's issues around access to education and healthcare. That's why health tech and ed tech are all such big growing fields. It's quite simply because we live in a time where the internet has collapsed borders and people are experiencing the same challenges. The largest population of Black African people in the world is in Nigeria. The second largest population of Black African people in the world is in Brazil. So if I was building a business, for instance, that does hair for Black African people, my number one market should probably be Nigeria because there's the largest number of them there. My second number one market would be in Brazil, which means I now need to understand how Brazil works. I need to understand the imports and exportations, but I also need to understand not only the regulation and the language. And so the internet allows you to truly globalize and internationalize your business.
You've been in Kenya for a number of times, like you said, and you've therefore obviously interacted with very many SMEs in this country. What would you say the main challenges that SMEs in Kenya have told you that they're facing?
One of the lessons my mother taught me is never be a bad guest. You don't visit somebody's home and then you start talking about the problems and challenges that they have. But now that you've asked the question, I'm happy to elucidate a little bit. I think the first, and I'll be honest with you here, so I hope you'll take this from, as a fellow African, a good place from which it comes. But I think the first challenge that I've noticed, certainly the first challenge I've seen most, in particular the young Kenyans talk about, the one that it appears to me, is foremost and uppermost in their minds, is who is building the solutions for the Kenyan market? Is it Kenyans themselves? And so there continues, in particular in the tech space, to have been in the past this persistent theme where the high growth tech startups tend to have Kenyans in the team, but the founders generally are not. And so the question, I suppose, and only yourselves as the community can answer this, is how do you create an equilibrium where a young person growing up in the northern part of Kenya, a young person coming from Masai who moves into comes from the Mara and moves into Nairobi, that young person has equal opportunity of building a high growth tech scalable startup, as would a young person who's moved to Nairobi on a working holiday from Switzerland or from France. How do you make sure that those opportunities are equal? The fact of the matter is that right now that's not necessarily the case. But I think that presents an opportunity. I always love looking at these things around how do they present an opportunity. That's the first one. The second, but this one there's been a lot of work done around this. There's always been access to early stage risk-based capital. Access to early stage risk-based capital is a huge constraint, not only in Kenya, but across Africa. In fact, across most of the sub-Saharan Africa. There's a lot of work for us to do to ensure that there's patient capital, that's risk-based capital, and it's early enough that the entrepreneurs can use it at the instance in which they most need it. Generally, at the instance at which their businesses have not yet proved their commercial tenets.
That's an interesting one that you say, making sure that everybody, for example, has same equal opportunity, whether it's somebody who's moving from one part of Kenya coming into Nairobi or going out of Nairobi, or some young person who's come into Kenya on holiday. Time for us to take a break. Vusi, thank you very much for this conversation. Let's continue it after the break. Vusi Thembekwayo is a managing partner with Watermark Capital Partners and also chairman of My Growth Fund. We're talking about the SME Link Conference 2022. Takes place at Movenpick Hotel in Nairobi next week from the 20th to the 22nd. We'll be talking about also launching the global digital marketplace for SMEs. Patrick Ojil, the executive director of SME Link International, is with us in the studio. We're taking this break at 28 minutes to 9 on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is The Situation Room.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, on YouTube and on Facebook, and also the conversations taking place via Twitter and Instagram. We're talking about the SME Link Conference 2022 and launch of the digital marketplace for SMEs, which is an app for this. And in the studio with us is Patrick Ojil, the Executive Director of SME Link International. And joining us via video from Dubai is Vusi Thembekwayo, Managing Partner, Waterpark Capital Partners, and Chairman of My Growth Fund, talking about the growth of SMEs and what SMEs need to, first of all, interact better and be able to trade better, have a better understanding of the marketplace, and access to finance.
So, I mean, even as we're looking at the launch of this and saying that this is all happening and looking at the importance of having funding at the very core of many businesses, I really do believe that without the support and the conducive environments of which governments provide, that we might still be in a really prickly situation. Where do you think the role of government is in all of this, work that's being done, encouraging young people to come forward, log on to this, encouraging young businesses to start here? Where is the support of government, and how pivotal is that in making sure that all of this comes to fruition?
That's to you, Vusi.
Right. I wasn't sure that was aimed at me. I think we need to just take a step back and understand what is the role of government. The role of governments is to ensure that there is governance, right? So, if I think about the Middle East, for instance, over the past 2 years, my good friend, one of the ministers here, His Excellency Omar, has been leading a department called the Department of the Future. And so the first thing I asked him when I met with him was, how can you have a Department of the Future? And he said, because we don't believe the future exists tomorrow. We believe it's made today. And so they have a Department of the Future. And in this department, they work with things like artificial intelligence, robotics. They've built a whole army of robotic applications that they're using in their own city to build their city. But one of the questions I was keen to understand from him was, how do they ensure that they are not the market participants, but create the conditions by which market participants can participate and thrive? And his answer, and it will answer your question, was that thematically everybody knows that the role of government is to facilitate market participation, fair and equitable market participation. That's the role of government. The second role of government is to collect in the part of the proceeds of this and use that for distribution, system of tax, and then from tax social infrastructure development. So I think that the opportunity, again, I love talking about opportunities because I think if we see these things and frame them as challenges, we're never going to get going. But I think that the opportunity for us as Africans is to ask ourselves the following questions. The first question is, the world having changed the way it's changed, in particular over the past 20 years, markedly over the past 50 years, but the past 20 years, there's been a radical shift in the world. How many of the governments in the countries that we live in, trade in, do businesses have changed just the form of government, the way government works, the way government looks, the way government delivers services, the way government interacts with its citizens? How many of those governments have change the way that they work or adapt to the way that they work so that it suits the modern time and era? And if the answer is none, Well, then that answers the first question you have, which is you have a model of governance that is not contemporary to the challenges we're facing in the world today. Right now, as we speak in West Africa, and without mentioning names, there is a particular country that's got an inflation challenge. And we have developers sitting in that country for one of our businesses, one of the businesses I'm invested in. And those developers don't want to be paid in the local currency of the country. They want to be paid in cryptocurrency. And this government, over the past year thereabouts, has been battling with the question of how do they tax proceeds of work and proceeds of enterprise that come through cryptocurrency payments. And so you're finding a lot of this, where governments very quickly are having to pivot themselves towards governing in an environment that's changed. Here's what I would say, and this is the direct answer to your question. I think that the real opportunity for government is to do what you see places like the Middle East have done, and it's not just Dubai. Abu Dhabi has done an incredible job at this. Fujairah is busy doing an amazing job at this. You see it too in places like Malaysia. You see it in places like Singapore. You see it even in countries like Pakistan, one of my favorite countries in the world, Sri Lanka. Go have a look at what's happening in Colombo in Sri Lanka. And what you see is that governments have created structures for disruptors, technologists, founders, and SME owners to organize themselves and to feed to the government the innovations and the regulations that they need. So rather than the government say, we will drive the process of telling you what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, the government says, we'll create a platform for you to tell us what's happening and what support do you need. And as you tell us what's happening and what support you need, we will try and be as responsive as possible and meet you halfway with the regulations that enable you to build in this environment. Because, and I just want to end on this to answer your question, the world is globalized. So an entrepreneur can build a business anywhere. They do not have to build it in your country. And I think governments are waking up to this, that entrepreneurs can build their businesses anywhere. They do not have to build it in your country. The largest fintech startup in Africa is run from San Francisco. The largest edtech platform in Africa is run from Australia. Entrepreneurs can build those businesses anyway. They do not have to be in your country building those businesses. And so the question for us as we build businesses, and the question for governments, is how do you create an environment that is enabling with the right incentives so that you can attract, retain, and reward talent to stay in that environment?
I've been listening to what you're saying, Vusi, and it's fascinating. It's mind-bogglingly fascinating. But it brings me to one question. You had an organization. How do you make your money?
Very simple, very simple. Well, I've got several businesses. By God's grace, I've been very blessed, I must tell you. And I just for the purpose of clarity, I gave my life to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So often when I speak, I reference God's grace in my life, because it's only by His grace that I've been able to experience the world the way that I've experienced it, and I've been able to be blessed to be in rooms. You must understand, I get the privilege of keeping companies with princes and presidents. I have the privilege of talking to kings and queens, literally kings and queens. So I've been very, very blessed, very, very blessed. Your question, though, was how do I make my money? So generally the way funds make money, and we have the same model, when you manage a fund, is you will build to the institutional investors in your fund, what we call limited partners, 2% of the total assets under management. For our very first fund, that is difficult because we have 2% of total assets deployed, and until you deploy the full sum of all of your funds, you live on a shoe budget. But then what happens is you manage the fund for a limited term. We've got 3 funds. One of them is a 5+2 fund. The other is a 10+1+1 fund. But basically what that means is that the fund will live for 5 years. Then we will exit the companies we invested in for 2 years after this. And when you exit the company, we take 20%. It's called the 220 rule. 20% of the upside in the value that we've created in this business. So what does that look like? Well, I buy into your business for $1 million, and I get paid 2% per annum to manage that $1 million. At the end of 5 years, I sell your business for $5 million. I get paid 20% of the $4 million gain made in the sale because I've added value to your business and I've added value to the investors. The 80% goes to the investors. So that's that's the way our fund business works. I've got a fintech business that is a trading platform that operates out of Seychelles, Cyprus, with my partner and the founder of the business, Philippe, sitting in Switzerland. That business runs and does its own thing. I've got a fintech business that's operating in the crypto space called Severus. So I've got a number of businesses that do several things. And as I say, it's only really been by God's grace. I'm in the commodity space. I've got a coal business, a fuel business. I've got a logistics business. My gift has been finding founders who know how to build businesses of scale, making sure that we're aligned in terms of the values we share, and then bringing the value that I bring. And generally, the value that I bring is global knowledge, market knowledge. I can get you into any market in anywhere in a week, right? And capital raising. If you're at the growth stage of your business and you need additional capital, that generally tends to be the skill that I bring on board. But I'm very selective about the businesses I get into. I'm very sector specific. We just signed now a renewable energy deal here in Dubai with a product that we're going to be rolling out in the rest of the African continent. And as we speak, I'm already talking to people who operate in that space to give us market entry into some of the different markets. So what I love to say to people is I present to the world 5% of what it is that I do, because that's the 5% that I think is information enough, and then I keep the rest to myself. I think it's important. I think it's good manners. I think having a sense of mystique is still a form of good manners, and in today's world, good manners.
I couldn't agree with you more. So would I be wrong in saying that the main commodity that you deal in is intellectual property?
Absolutely. That's what I bring to the table. I come in and I help you think through your business differently, think through partnerships differently, think through relationships differently, think through structuring differently. This is also why there's probably only 1 in 20 businesses that I look at do I actually get involved in. Because there has to be a match. We have to match the stage of your business that you're at. So businesses have life cycles, and when a business is at the tail end of its life cycle and it's dying and it needs a renewal, I'm not that guy. I don't have the skill set for this. But when a business is at the very exciting growth stage and it's looking for new products, new partners, new distribution channels, new capital, I'm very good at that. So I get involved in areas where I have the skill set to get involved, and I get involved in areas where I can bring to bear the knowledge, the experience, the networks that can help that business accelerate and get into the next level quicker.
Thank you. Mr. Jill, how do you make your money?
That's an interesting question. I'm still a startup. I'm here to make money, but I think making money is a function of time. At this point in time, what we're doing is building the platform. We've given ourselves about 9 to 18-month product development period, where we're going to build this amazing digital platform, and the revenue models will come later. For now, it's building. So I've not made money yet, but I'm getting there.
So when you talk to SMEs, and everybody who gets into business is getting into business to make money.
Right.
There are those that start off with the idea. So at that ideation stage, and you're thinking, all right, so let me just start something, proof of concept, get into. There are very many SMEs that will even register onto this platform, and they don't have the patience, the kind of patience that you're saying that you need in order to be able to make money. What would be the one thing that you tell them?
I think what's very critical for SMEs is they need mentorship. They need people to talk to them so that they can do the right things.
But mentors are like Vusi. They make money out of mentoring.
That's the reason why we're inviting subject matter experts like Vusi to come and inspire them. That's mentorship. Because you can be trusted with resources. You can be given money today, like Latif, if I give you 10 million right now, and you're not mentored properly, and you're not adequately equipped to manage those resources, you'll go to the Maldives, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But when you have the right mentors around you, they'll show you the ropes so that then you manage your resources properly and take your business to the next level. So when you talk about learnings and linkages to money, markets, and mentors, mentorship for me comes first. You need to be adequately equipped to manage resources. So I think, and that's the reason why we're hosting this conference. We're calling it a thought leadership conference because we're bringing you the subject matter experts that are coming to show you the how. And that's the reason why Vusi is coming amongst other amazing people that we have on our lineup.
How do you think this is actually going to transform the lifeline of businesses, whether they are starting or somewhere in the middle, or have been there for some time? Practically transform businesses today. That will be the answer that maybe folks have been looking for but have not been able to grasp.
You see, what you're saying is this. Start off by registering on the app, right? Because the app now will connect you to the opportunities. That is where the conversation starts. Then come to the conference and listen to subject matter experts talk to you about the how. How do I access money? How do you access mentors? How do you access markets? The conversation starts from there. But remember, the conference is 3 days. Post-conference, what happens? We still have the app with us, isn't it? We're building a robust platform where every time as an SME browsing through, you'll be connecting with value-adding information that will be able to help you transform your business. And that's the reason why I said we are signing strategic partnerships with amazing partners, mentors, people who can guide you into accessing money, people who can guide you into accessing markets. All this information will be available on the platform. That's the big picture. And we are doing this on a global scale, right? So we are starting with this conference here in Nairobi. And the plan is to visit other markets as well. Our next stop is going to be Kigali, where we're going to connect with the SMEs there. We want to understand the intricacies and dynamics around businesses where they operate. Then the next stop is going to be Ghana, then Nigeria, then South Africa. We have a partner who will then host us in Dubai. The gentleman in Detroit, Michigan, will host our event there. Then we'll go to the UK. After that, we believe the platform should be able to now evolve on its own. So in the 18 months that I was talking about is hard work, where you go to the ground and build solid relationships with SMEs. We're not going to sit here and hope that people will organically just jump onto the platform. We are ready for the hard work, right? So when you talk about linking SMEs with real opportunities, the fact that we've signed strategic partnerships in different parts of the world lends credence to the philosophy of what we're saying is SME Link. We are linking you to global markets. We have a partner in Detroit, Michigan already, who will be talking to us on Tuesday about the opportunities that are bound for SMEs in the US for them to tap into the businesses there. We have a partner in the GCC and the Asia region who will be talking to SMEs in Kenya and Africa about the opportunities that are there they can tap into, and so on and so forth. That's the plan. So to answer your question, the conversation starts with you registering on the app and coming to the conference. Our friend Vusi here talked about something the other day we were on a live. He said it takes two years to write a book. You go through 5,000 pages of material, which you then condense into 300 pages. You buy that book today, you'll read it in a week, right?
Yeah.
But it's a body of knowledge that has taken decades to put together. So if you're asking yourself, why are you coming to the conference? You're coming to interact with a body of knowledge that has been built for a very, very long time. And these are people you don't access every day, right? Yeah.
You know, the uniqueness of the conference itself ought to be a selling point. But more so for people who understand that indeed it isn't theoretical. The world actually has become a global economy.
Right.
But then how then do you reach people who, yes, know the world has become a global economy, but do not necessarily know how to access this global economy?
As our brother Vusi says, the internet has collapsed the world. It's ubiquitous. You just go to your browser and you'll access all the information that you want.
If you have access to a browser. What about those who don't have access to a browser and would like to have access to a browser? The ones I speak of. For instance, if you're to talk about connectivity in this country, if I talk percentages, what is the percentage of connectivity to the internet in the people in this country? And who are the people who have access to internet in this country?
Well, that's an interesting point right there. I know not everyone has access to internet, but now that goes back to the question that was asked earlier. What should the government be doing to the people of the country insofar as them being able to do business is concerned? I think the thing is, one of the things that the government needs to do is create an enabling environment to ensure that businesses are able to thrive. And I think a lot of progress has been made in that regard. Our telcos like Safaricom today are offering very affordable bundles to people who want to access internet, isn't it? So I do believe that there's a lot of progress that is being made there. I would not think there's an excuse for anyone to say they cannot access internet. As long as you have a phone,
You'd be surprised.
buy bundles.
You would be surprised.
Well, I think, City, in fairness, if you are in a category not of micro but small or medium enterprise, then you have fairly some level of degree of ability to access the internet.
100%.
You are absolutely right. My point of conversation isn't those who are already there. You see, the SMEs we speak of, we are talking about people who are already there. I am more focused on the aspirational aspects of it. You are a small-time business person. Your aspiration is to get to that particular position. And we're saying the tool that you require, that is where my point of discussion begins.
So you get there.
But if you're a small business, it means you're making a bit of money, isn't it?
It means you're struggling to make
One
money.
would hope.
Yes. It means
But I
you're
mean, if we're
struggling.
looking at the reality on the ground, and I think Vusi even, kind of pointed in that direction, is that that connect then between calling yourself a small business and then actually thriving, I think is now the connect that everybody's trying to make right now.
Yes.
That where do I get to? I'm trying to start a business. I'm trying to do 1, 2, 3. How then do I get to the point where I'm thriving? And I think that's where a lot of people are. And this is probably why some of these things are being done today, to make that connect for a lot of people.
We're talking about communities in this country where telephonic services, as we call them, are community owned, meaning you'll find an individual has a phone and other people come to use it because that is what is available. I'm simply saying this. If you're talking potential, therein lies the potential. People who might be willing to participate in what you are selling, but because of technical capacities or incapacities are unable to. Again, my view, my thoughts, they are a market.
Indeed. But so what do we need to do to get onto the conference next week? How does one register? How does one attend?
Great. So all you need to do is visit our microsite. It's conference.smelink.app. Once you type that on your browser, you'll be able to access all the information about the conference, all the speakers that have been lined up to participate at the conference, and then it will take you down to different price tiers, where you'll pick the tire that you're comfortable with. There's an all-access tire for 3 days. There's a tire for just a daily rate. And then we have a tire for those who will be coming in online. We're expecting a lot of international delegates to register and stream the content online because we're doing a hybrid event. Yeah,
So it's
we'll only
both
accommodate a
physical
few people on
and
site,
virtual.
but then the rest of the international delegates will be streaming online.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is taking place next week from the 20th to the 22nd of March.
At the Movenpick. Yes. Not March, April.
Of March this year at the Movenpick Hotel. Patrick Ojil is Executive Director of SME Link International, and we've also been talking to Vusi Thembekwayo, who's a Managing Partner, Waterpark Capital Partners, Chairman of My Growth Fund. He will be in Nairobi next week speaking at this conference and sharing all the exciting ideas.